Well, hello there, motor racing fans. Welcome back to Speed Street, the podcast. My name is Connor Daly. I am a partially employed racing driver and a full-time podcaster. My co-host Chase Holden is here. We've got producer Bobby with an incredible beard here as well. We have a lot to talk about. We have another great guest this week as well. Another very talented IndyCar driver who is a part of his first full season as an IndyCar driver. And many things that I would say we wanted to get to from the St. Petersburg weekend that we didn't get to because I think we were just trying to get through the race discussion last weekend. So Chase, a lot has gone on. We had a wild weekend of NASCAR racing. You opened up a lot of race cards. A lot of things have been going on in your life, but are you excited for yet another IndyCar weekend coming up? This is essentially our thermal preview show.
I'm more than excited, Connor, and it is a great day. It's been a great week for race cards. It's been a great week for racing. Bristol, I have heard nothing but honestly mixed reviews. There's some people, I think there was some uncertainty. There was some people that weren't sure that they knew what they wanted. There were definitely people that did know what they want. And I know that for anybody that's a listener that is a fan of old school racing, that was what went down in NASCAR this past weekend. So there was a ton of that. But I'm sure we'll get all into it. I'm very excited for Thermal Club, not only because it is like the first kind of like all-star race, I guess, for IndyCar, but also because
at least in our era, yes.
Yes, in our era, for sure. I don't have my AI little bot man to check things right now. That's okay. But I will say that I'm more excited to see what the vibe is like at a kind of like a country club with a racetrack. That's what I'm really excited about. So that's what Thermal Club reminds me of. High, top tier country club like in the world. But instead of golfing, you go racing.
You have it. You hit the nail on the head there, Chase. Thermal is, I think, a lot of people, as Joseph Newgarden mentioned with us last week. There are a lot of questions. I personally, I don't think it's going to be a good racetrack. Honestly, I think it is a good driver's track. I think driving it is actually an enjoyable experience. I think there were some safety elements that they need to introduce, which I hope that they have for an actual motor race to take place. But we appreciate all those, at Thermal. I mean, the Thermal Club logo is literally going to be on my race suit for the Indy 500. So they will be a part of our, Don Cusick, who is part of our team at Cusick, Dry Ramble Cusick Motorsports. He is a big name in the Thermal Club community. He obviously spends a lot of time out there, so love Thermal, and they have treated me fantastically. Had a great time testing there last year, getting used to the track. We also did a ton of photo shoots there last year too, with a lot of crazy, awesome backgrounds. But racetrack wise, I mean, we're on a show. I don't know if it's going to race that well. I hope that I could be surprised. We'll see. There's going to be a lot of interesting things to pay attention to. But before we get to Thermal, there were a couple things that I think a lot of our fans really want to, make sure that we get to, because we announced our deal with IndyCar, and we want to make sure we're honest with the community about like, hey, what if there are some things that might be tough to discuss? And there was one thing that I think a lot of people were like, hey, you haven't mentioned this yet. And that was Michael Andretti telling Roger Penske, or saying that Roger Penske should maybe sell the series. Now that is very aggressive. I can only assume that if there was a meeting there, Roger Penske probably would have looked right at Michael Andretti and said, hey, what do you want to buy it? I don't know. Maybe there was that type of interaction. Who knows? I think Roger is doing way more, and his whole Penske Entertainment Group, I would say they're doing way more behind the scenes than we would even know about, because you can't just, us as fans, like I'm a fan right now, right? Partially employed. Us as fans, and again, I do know a lot more about what's going on underneath the surface. Obviously, I have that I know this world like the back of my hand. It's part of my family as well. But you will not know what's going on all the time. Like, you will not know what's going on. Like, you see something and you're like, well, that's stupid. Or like, well, that's tough. It's like, well, hey, have you thought about it for like 10 seconds more? Like, just think, hey, like maybe like Roger is spending a ton of money on IndyCar and like on our marketing department. And we have made strides forward, like from where we were just a couple years ago, like when there was not a lot of social account activity. Our social channels, I would say, were dismal. We are much, much better there. We have definitely taken a step forward. Now, again, last year, you got to also remember that we did take a step forward TV ratings wise. So like before we start saying, hey, we got to basically destroy what we've built here, like we have got better. I would say this year, we all got a little bit, yikes about the TV ratings after the first race, but I don't think that's fair. But just know that I think Roger has to spend a lot more money than you realize for several other things to happen too, like new cars coming soon, right? Like there's got to be a Penske Entertainment spend there. Who's going to do the development on that? That really has to come essentially from Penske Entertainment. Like that's not going to be every team developing their own car. The perks of being a part of the IndyCar series, right? And having this spec car that we developed for the series, mostly spec car essentially, is that like someone has to put that time and development in. And I know it's a long time ago now. I wasn't even 20 yet when they were developing the DW12, which is the car that we are still currently driving. But they spent a whole year, almost 2 years developing that car. And we will need to do something similar to that with a test team, with an organization, that can work on making it a great product. But there's a lot going on there. And to say, I respect Michael Andretti a lot. I respect Roger Penske a lot. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that might think that they have a solution to what IndyCar's problems are, let's say mainly on the marketing side, right? But I don't have the answer. And so I'm not going to be the one who's like, yes, I think we can all recognize that we do have to improve. We do have to get a better foothold in the North American continent, especially the United States of America when it comes to television ratings. But I don't have that answer. My contribution is this show, is the social, is like, I would like to contribute. Let's contribute. We're doing that. But if all you can do is throw just a bunch of negativity at it, like that's part of it. But like, if you're willing to throw some shade at an organization, at least offer a solution as well. Like, hey, here's what I would do that might improve. Does that make sense?
100%. No. And I mean, that's where I really come into this, like mentally is I'm looking at it from the outside, looking in like everybody else. And from my personal experiences in life, like you're not going to get what you want by just pointing a finger and just, it doesn't work like that. Like, show up with solutions, be the change you want to see. That's a great way to start. You know what I mean? It's like, this is my mantra right now. It starts with the little things. Okay.
Yeah.
And that goes for everything in life. So you might not think that, Roger's doing a great job. Well, instead of doing the whole media outlet, like pull them to the side, have a conversation, talk it out there, because it's going to be a group effort and it's going to take everybody working together to elevate IndyCar the way that we want to see it be elevated. And that's something that we've realized by now. But also, I just want to know, Roger Penske stands on business, man. Okay, at the end of the day, he's standing on business, dude. I mean, he bought this business. I don't think that a man like Roger Penske would buy into something like this if he didn't have himself or people specifically to create a game plan to move forward that he didn't trust. You know what I mean?
And so you got to remember, too, you got to remember as well, Roger Penske bought IMS, which sort of includes IndyCar. IndyCar is essentially not a profitable business. So that's the hilarious part about it is like Roger had to buy the whole group to get what he wanted. Obviously, he loves the Indianapolis 500 IMS. That's an amazing legacy item for him. So, we had to build from something that was, not a profitable sporting division, right? But he is a businessman. He's trying to make it work. He's also an older generation than I think what is truly finding a ton of success right now in the marketing scheme. So again, I think he's had to learn a lot about the new era of individuals and what is working on the marketing side, because we're not buying newspaper ads anymore. You know what I mean? We're not putting out,
very true,
pamphlets out on the road, then hope that people watch the race. You know what I mean? So
Joe Gibbs has done a lot with pamphlets, though. I will say that.
Pamphlets are cool.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes.
So there's a lot there that I think it's so easy to throw stones. It's so easy to, and again, I have absolutely been critical of a lot of things that I do believe that I think we should be doing. You know, there are some things that I think we have done that we could have done better. But there, I would say right now, what I'm happy about is that they are trying, right? We have 100 Days to Indy. Yes, it's not a Netflix show, and I know that Netflix shows right now are the hot thing to have, but it's something. And I do believe that those people producing 100 Days to Indy, I think they're great people, and I do believe that they are trying to tell the best story that they can. And I just, it's going to be hard like that. There's no way around it. We can't paint a better picture. We're not, I believe, in the position that I think that we should be currently, right? I do believe that we have a better product than we are seeing ratings wise, right? Like we watch NASCAR again, boom, their ratings are up from last year. So and they were up against, some pretty serious other events that were going on over the weekend. So something is doing that. So something is creating more hype for NASCAR in currently an era where I would say some of the racing last year was not super inspirational. Some of it was really good. This year, I would say the racing has been quite good. But we have to, we have to do some studies because Formula One's racing is the worst it's ever been. And they are in a nosedive for ratings. So,
Max again, would want to challenge you on that one though. Max would want to say that it's not it's the best, that's ever been.
Well, he could win every race from a boat dock, it doesn't really matter where he starts. He could start in swim trunks,
electric roller
swim
skates,
trunks and sandals.
He'll figure it out. Swim trunks and sandals, dude. Yeah.
So,
but no, I hear exactly everything that you're saying on that, man. And I mean, and it stands true. And again, I guess the best thing I can say to this whole thing, and it goes for everyone listening to this program right now, it goes for everybody that is a fan of IndyCar and wants to see it. Be the change you want to see. That is the beginning. And on this show, we're going to be the change we want to see. You at home, watching on the weekends, going to the racetracks, be the change you want to see. And that's when you're going to see the change happen.
And you also got to think too, now we talk about the charter system, right? Now the charter system, clearly that has been a profitable system for NASCAR. And, this business for so many years has basically just been, the team owners are wealthy guys, right? Like all these team owners in motorsport, they're doing fine. There's someone who is connected to the team that is a bit of an injection of funding, right? Like every single team on the grid, you look at, who's their financial partner? Where does all this funding come from? Well, Ganassi's been a powerhouse for many years. So he owns a ton of assets. He's also become wealthy because he came through motorsport in the time where it was making money. You could sell sponsorship to Target for, $25 million a year for each car, right? So you're banking away money, Ben. Boom, banking it away. Penske, one of the most successful businessmen on the planet, right? Okay, it's easy to fund your race car there, right? Meyer Shank Racing, well, our guy, Michael Shank, successful guy, but he also found Jim Meyer, who, again, Sirius XM, like the guy is very successful businessman. So you go through every single one. You go through Dale Coyne Racing, right? Made a ton of money off the businesses in general, but also the Champ Car settlement back in the day. The car, that whole deal, that made a ton of money there. Ed Carpenter Racing even, right? Ed Carpenter Racing's family is doing pretty well. And he's also got partners in that team who are very successfully wealthy that you don't hear about as often, but that's the base. If you need something, you go to that. So we could keep going through these teams and you'll see that, they're all putting a ton of money in, but they want something. Some of these folks as well who are successful businessmen, like Jim Meyer, for example. I would say he's going to be a big proponent of these charters because he's an investor as well. He's like, well, I love this business. I'd like it to be worth something, right? Because essentially what it's worth now is the assets that you own, right? So if you own 3 cars, well, you have $250,000 a car, $350,000 a car, whatever it is. Those are your only assets. So you want it to be an entity And it's like owning a sports team right now. Sports teams are going up in worth by tenfold. Same with F1. You got Ryan Reynolds buying into teams. You got all these people buying into teams because it's an entity that you can buy into. So I do understand the need for charters. I don't like when they talk about guaranteed 500 entries. That still is something that I'm very against. But there's got to be a way to figure out this charter system, because a guy like Dennis Reinbold, though, too, right? Dennis Reinbold, successful business guy. I'm driving for him, right? He can only do the Indy 500 right now because he doesn't have that giant sponsor that comes in and is like, here's your $10 million, walkway to owning a team, like a full-time team again, right? Dennis is a successful businessman enough to where he's like, I'm going to invest my own money in the Indianapolis 500 because that's the most profitable race of the season. We can do that efficiently. We can do that well. But I'm not willing to risk another $10 million to run 2 cars at races that might not make us any money, right? So let's say you gave him an opportunity. Hey, Dennis, it's going to cost you $10 million to get a charter, but you're going to now have this for however long the term is, and now it's worth something. So then maybe you have a guy like Dennis who's like, you know what? I am going to make that investment because it is actually you're buying into something that is a real tangible thing. And like these NASCAR teams did, right? You had Matt Tifft and his boys over there, BJ McLeod, sell their charter for $35 million or whatever it was. Those guys look like heroes. That's their put that in their Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? So I think I do hope that if there is a charter system, they do give someone like Dennis an opportunity to get in, because I think Dennis has shown so much support for this series, has shown so much passion for IndyCar, but is also a smart businessman and is like, hey, look, I don't have the ability to run a car full time, but boy, do we show up at the 500 every year with a shot to try to win. So you could talk about charters for years, but what do you think of that, Chase?
I'll just say this much with it. If it is going to be beneficial for the overall growth in sport, and you can find a way to do that while staying true to the roots of the Indianapolis 500, then I'm all for whatever works to make things better. I'm with you 100%. And I didn't really understand it coming into it this year, but now after talking with you more, after being on this show, after learning more and really just diving, as deep as I can on a daily basis, just into IndyCar itself, I do understand why it's so important to leave that alone for the Indy 5, but for the series overall, I know that there's a way to do it. There's a way to do everything. There is definitely a way to do everything. Yeah. So there is a way to figure that out and find that out. And I just, again, I'll go back to saying this all kind of spurred from the whole, Michael Andretti statements and things like that. But it's just, it's a great time to be in the IndyCar scene, because it seems like we're right on the cusp of a revolution with it. Yeah, the precipice, right? It's like the Boston Tea Party. You want to go do a little history lesson. We're throwing some tea. We're throwing some tea overboard. It's like, hey, no taxation without representation. I don't know where you want to fit that in, but
I don't know how that compares, but I'll take it. I do like
not
American
at all,
history.
probably. Yeah. I was almost a history teacher at one time. Long ago.
Clearly.
Yeah, that doesn't really fit the I would have been great at it. I would have definitely been coaching golf right now. 100%, dude. 100%. But that's where it's where we're at right now, man. It's just find a way to do it without messing with the Indy 500 and rock and roll. And we'll see the results. The results are going to show regardless. But yeah, it just all in all, the people that are in charge right now, let it run out, let it go. Let's see where it flows. I just can't get my mind off of Roger Penske with some shades on, whipping around Indy. It just looks right, on the scooter, him and Chip together. It looks good. You want to keep that vibe going. I want to find a way.
Yeah, because we're obviously going to be on this planet hopefully for a very much longer time, right? And
no telling how long.
No telling how long, right? With modern science, you never know how long we're going to live. I heard some guy today, he's taking 100 vitamins a day, and he's going to live. He said by 2029, we're going to gain a year of life back in modern science. So my mind was blown this morning. Apparently now we can live forever once we get to 2029, but that might have been a conspiracy podcast. I don't know.
100 vitamins a day is where I'm still processing. You know, that dude is peeing neon, dude. Like game over, dude. Like there is no way around that. Yeah, your body don't need that much vitamins.
Let's say Roger makes it to 2029, which we hope he lives forever. Boom. Roger's got 100 vitamins a day, and now he's our fearless leader for the rest of the time. Who knows? Anyway, that's a complete, who knows what'll happen there. But we want to make sure the next generation, if I ever have kids someday, you know what I mean, which I would like to have, I would like them to be able to be IndyCar fans and be excited about what that future holds, right? Like, hey, what's that next generation look like? So again, there's a lot there, and we can keep. We only have one race to look at so far, right? So let's get through half of the year. Let's do a reevaluation after the Indy 500. Let's do a reevaluation of everything, kind of see what's going on after that, and just get into it. But before we get into the thermal, we got to give a shout out to the IndyCar boys who really kind of dominated in Sebring. The Sebring 12-hour race, such a great event. I watched a lot of many of the hours. Colton Herta, he wins everything. So Colton Herta he's still like 22 and has like a bunch of Rolex watches. He's got trophies everywhere. He's swimming in champagne. The guy's doing a great job. The Wayne Taylor Racing team with Andretti Global now, so Andretti gets a win. So that's good for IndyCar. Kyle Kirkwood as well, Colton's teammate. Boom, Lexus win. There you go. Vassar Sullivan, great people. Love Jimmy Vassar. Love Mr. Sullivan. Those guys are great folks. So that was good to see. And a great race, honestly. I do love the Sebring 12-hour. There's a couple moments where you're like, not sure how those people did that. You had a big Pipo Durrani crash. That was kind of wild. He ended up on his roof.
That was the big wreck?
That was a big one.
That was the big one, right?
There was a larger man trying to jump over the fence to maybe try to help the race car, and there was a very funny clip of him trying to get over the fence, and he was like, I'm sure he'll be fine.
Oh, no.
That was a very cool clip. And also, glad he did not get over that fence, because if you're a fan, do not touch a hybrid race car. Do not do that. If it is upside down, I don't care if it's on fire. Don't touch it. Maybe try to put out the fire first, but don't touch it, because you will be dead, super fast. So again, there's still stuff in the hybrid stuff where don't go up and touch a hybrid active race car. Don't do that. So I thought I saw a man about to go out there and try to, get Pipo out of that upside down Cadillac, but thankfully he did not.
Only at Sebring, right?
Only at Sebring. Yeah, they had a whole.
Only at Sebring. I've heard the connection between Sebring and Talladega. That's what I've heard. Yeah. I've heard it's like the Talladega of IMSA. And if that is true, I did see a photo of there was some big large fire burning. People were surrounding
burning
it.
Clutches and stuff.
A lot of chanting, voodoo doll heads. There's all kinds of things going. I've got to get to this race. It sounds like an entire vibe.
We should honestly do it next year. I do hope to be doing that race next year. It's looking highly likely that is a potential, and we got to get you there for that. I think that would be a content extravaganza, just a great time. It's an event that you have to add to your list of events that you've completed as a human being.
Okay, well then I have to add that to my list. I've been told now by 3 people, you are the third person. 3 for Dale. Let's go. All right.
There you go.
3 for Al. Maybe 3 for Al here on this program. 3 for Mr. Unser Jr. All right. I like that. I like it a lot.
No, a great showing. Great showing for our boys down there. I think that's just such a great in-between race for us IndyCar fans who get into the first race, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh, yikes, we don't have a race next weekend. NASCAR races every single weekend. And then, boom, here we go. We got thermal. So very, very excited for that. I think what's kind of crazy, again, we mentioned Bristol briefly, but that was wild. Good to see our fellow Dirty Mo Media man, Denny Hamlin, get the win. Shout out Denny.
All in.
Shout out Denny. Shout out Tire Wear. A lot of that stuff. Now, again, this is an IndyCar show, and I heard someone basically in the Facebook comments was like, this is becoming a NASCAR show. I can't listen to it anymore.
Oh, yeah. They don't like me.
We're giving 100%. NASCAR, come on. We like racing. we're going to talk about a motor race that happened that has a fellow Dirty Mo Media person in the race who won the race. And look, boom, here's your comparison to IndyCar. The tire wear at Bristol was fascinating. I do believe we have sort of an in-between step of that tire wear at Iowa. Iowa is fascinating because I can show you several onboard videos towards the end of the stint at Iowa when you've tried to do like 65, 70 laps on a set of tires, 55, 60 laps. You feel like you are crawling around that track. And if you put on new tires, you are driving circles around the other people who didn't pit. So that kind of reminded me a little bit of Iowa. But our Firestone tires, we don't like. What was kind of crazy to see about the Goodyears is that they would just all go flat. Like all the tires, they would wear down and they would go flat. The Firestone tires, I do love Firestone. They've done a great job for our series. But when they wear out, thankfully they don't just explode or go flat. We just have to pit because we can't really control the car anymore. So very similar to the NASCAR Cup race. It was very interesting to watch. It's kind of crazy to think that only like 6 or 7 cars finished on the lead lap. That was wild. But when you're
very
fighting,
crazy to hear Clint Boyer say the word marbles. That was pretty big for me. Anytime we got Dale, we got El Capitano, Dale Jr. talking about marbles on X, and then we get Clint Boyer talking about marbles. I'm like, here we go. Like we're drawing the lines closer and closer to IndyCar.
It was wild. Yeah, but again, experience pays off there. Clearly, you got Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr. 1 and 2. Experience pays off. Brad Keselowski 3rd. I think he's up there. Josh Berry, great short track racer. He was up there as well. And again, that's NASCAR talk. That's it. That's all you guys get. That we're done now.
We're done.
You can take out your earplugs. You're going to be fine. Everything's good. We're going to go straight back to IndyCar racing talk right now because we have the thermal $1.7 million challenge. Now again, there's been a lot of talk recently about how much money we're actually making here. There's been a lot of interesting chatter, and I will give Nathan Brown a lot of credit from the Indy Star for this one because he really dove deep, and and it does not look good, and I don't want to. Now again, he was brave to write this article because it is kind of throwing a little bit under the bus, but the winner of the race does not get $1 million. Like. That's just what it is. And I know that's part of it. And the prize money, has shifted a little bit. But again, this is still good. Let me read you out. Now, again, I saw a couple of questions in the comments, like, what is our prize money for other races, right? Because NASCAR, they always put out like the purses. Bob Pockris likes to put out the purses, right? Like every purse is kind of a little bit different. So for us in IndyCar, it's not different. The only race that's different is the Indy 500. The Indy 500, you have these prize money numbers that are very large, but a lot of it, especially for the cars that run full time, is the majority of that number. Like, let's say, for example, when I finished 6th, I was like, wow, I get $580,000 or something. I was like, that's insane. That's the most prize money I've ever got. Technically, normally the leader circle payment, the leader circle is what each full-time car that finishes in the top 22 in points at the end of the year gets basically by the end of the year. So that money is $1 million. And now this year, I think it's $1.1 million, something like that. But most of that money comes after the 500, and they bolster the purse by putting in this leader circle money that doesn't actually go to the driver at all. It just goes to the team, but it makes it look like we're winning a ton of money because officially they put it in the purse. Now, again, I don't like that, but if they put the regular amount of prize money without the leader circle, it would look kind of sad. Like, because you get basically, if you're not a leader circle car, you're guaranteed $100,000 to start now. Now, when I started, it was $300,000. So it's been altered a little bit, but like, let's say the most amount of prize money that I've made, like, for example, at the Indy 500, to give people like a pure, like, this is not looking at my tax forms. This is like a general estimate, but I have not made more than 6 figures doing the Indy 500. Like, I have finished 6th, which is a pretty decent finishing position. and, leading a lot of the laps as well in 2021. There's a couple little random bonuses for that. But I have not made more than, I don't think I've made more than 50 grand in prize money from the Indy 500 for finishing in the top 6, right? So again, great day for me, like awesome day. But when I looked at it, it was like, wow, 580,000 or 550,000. I don't know, whatever I won in 2022 was, but 450,000 of that was leader circle. So even I remember Ed had to tell me, he's like, hey, Ed didn't actually know that. He's like, hey, actually 450 of that is leader circle. So that goes to us. So don't go like buy anything yet. And I was like, oh, good to know. Oh, so again, this is the reality of how this works, right? You're really still only
shattered
making
the glass of perception.
You're making like life-changing money, not life-changing money, even after taxes. And again, team takes half. So the team takes the leader circle and the team takes half of what your cut is. So I got whatever was left after the leader circle, also split 40% of that. So there's a lot of differences there. And the 500 prize money we could debate for forever, but that's just the reality of it, right? That's giving you a look in on what's truly happening. So
it's a big look.
Here's what happens for every other IndyCar race. So for every other IndyCar race, for people who don't know, this is actually kind of funny. I wrote this down. I have a little folded up sticky note that I've had in my laptop case since my rookie year in IndyCar.
Very nice.
I remember I had got my stepdad Doug to write down, because I didn't know what prize money you got if you finished anywhere in an IndyCar race. I did not know that. And I was like, Doug, what do these races pay? Now, this is an older note, but it's still the same thing. So, this is very similar. Now, again, we're going to say allegedly here. I don't want to, I think second place might be. No, I think this is literally exactly the same as what it is now. It doesn't look any different. They might have changed it by $500, but it's not a ton. So the winner of every race other than Indy is $30,000. So if you win St. Pete, $30,000 is the prize money, and drivers usually split that in half. So that's from what I've seen. And again, if you read Nathan Brown's article, so you get 15 grand to win an IndyCar race. Now, I got more money for finishing 29th of the Daytona 500 than probably almost my entire IndyCar series combined. Not really actually, but but the way NASCAR pays out, they don't have that leader circle, right? So they have more of that money to disperse per each event. So again, that we could talk about this for 10 hours, but we're gonna read IndyCar prize money numbers so people can kind of get a feel for, hey, at Thermal, you show up. Just to show up and finish the race, you get like $27,000. So you're already at almost what it's just to finish last. You're at,
and that's the team.
Yeah. So if you finish 27th in Thermal, you essentially almost get what it is to win a normal IndyCar race. So hey, that's a good thing for the team. That's all right. But second place gets $20,000. Third place gets $15,000. Fourth, 11. Fifth, 10, 9, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, and 2. And it only pays to 12th. So IndyCar races only pay to P12. And if you finish 12th in an IndyCar race, which honestly now is a great day, after the split, like if you get 40% of $2,000, that's not a lot of money. Now, again, for some, of course, getting a couple extra $100, that's great. But you're putting your life on the line that day. You're busting your butt for the whole weekend. I do believe that's just being honest. Now, again, I'm sure people at IndyCar won't like this, but I'm letting people know, because I don't believe that we ever these numbers aren't put out there to people, right? So I'm just letting everyone know. This is the real information. It's not a bad thing. I'm not complaining, because if you get prize money, that's great. Like, we're all very happy about that. But that's why I think some of the $1 million thing, like there was a lot of digging into that. And this overall is a great day for all the teams and drivers. It is, because it is a chance to have some positive cash flow. It is it is a good day, but to give you a general comparison, yes, the winner does get $500,000. but usually that's split in half. And so again, Nathan Brown did say you're probably going to end up at about, 200. He said that there was like manager fees that take parts of prize money, which that's kind of a wild thing. I didn't know that. My manager doesn't take any of my prize money, but
that's probably an individual level, I would have to say.
Yeah. So and you look at taxes, taxes are also a thing. So just to let people know, like, I do hope that we can get to a better place. Now, I don't know what the NASCAR All-Star race, they say there's $1 million there too. And now NASCAR prize money, I will say in all of my IndyCar contracts ever, I've got 40% of the prize money if I've finished anywhere else other than winning. If I win, I get 50%. Now, in any NASCAR contract that I've done, trucks, Xfinity, or any of my Cup stuff, the percentage of the prize money that the driver has received, and again, I've only done very few NASCAR races, has only been about 15%, 10 or 15%. So the driver, again, gets less of a percentage of the prize money than the team does in the NASCAR world, potentially. We can maybe ask some NASCAR people about that as well, but this is only from my personal experience. But that number is larger. Like I just got this recently, but I finished 18th at the Mid-Ohio truck race last year when our steering wasn't working. And I just got like $1,500 of prize money. Now, again, that's only like 10%, but that's still more than I would make for finishing in the top 10 in IndyCar, which is wild. So that's trucks compared to IndyCar. But again, I don't want to throw that out there as throwing any kind of shade at anyone, but this is just, I think what we want to do with the show is like let people know some realities, right?
Yeah, the nature of the business, the nature of the business.
So again, we've got teams going into this weekend with a great opportunity to bring in some positive, some dollars. I am very curious to see how it plays out. I will be working a lot with IndyCar this weekend. I am in California now. I literally just landed like an hour ago. Nice. I will be doing a lot of content, so you'll see a lot on our channels, my channels, and I think there's a couple interesting elements. This is the first time I've seen an IndyCar heat race. We've got a couple heat races to look at. What's
that's going to be fun.
What's most fun, I think, is that they're drawing for qualifying groups. So you could have one qualifying group that's like Scott Dixon, Will Power, Pato O'Ward, Alex Rossi, and you're like, well, shoot, that's not a great group to be in. And the other one, you might have like Stingray Bob, Santino, and like, some of the more of the back of the pack teams, or the slightly not quite there yet teams. So that could be really interesting. And again,
Pelot be in that group. Pelot will be in that group.
Gives drivers a perfect excuse, right? It's going to be excuse city. It's like, well, we got a bad draw. You know what I mean? We love a good driver excuse. It's amazing.
We don't like excuses over here in these parts. Keep your excuses to yourself.
Exactly.
Now, are they going to do anything with the pit crews? Are they going to have anything with the guys in the paddock? Are they going to be doing any competitions like that? Like, I know that's one thing I love at the NASCAR All-Star Race weekend is the pit crew competition.
So I have not seen a ton about the pit crew stuff. If anything, all the races as well are just going to be, there's going to be a break in between the main race where they can, swap tires, I think, and make some adjustments to the car. But again, let's just try it out. Like, give it a chance. We're going to be on a great television network. We're going to be able to watch this race. We're going to be able to take in IndyCar at a new event. So let's give it an amazing chance. I think it's very fun. Now, again, tough to have spectators out there. Obviously, this is a unique. Think of this as just a unique opportunity for us as IndyCar fans. I know there are a lot of salty people about it, which, again, people are mad at something every day, and I don't know why. Let's not just do that. Give it a chance. I think it's going to be exciting to watch. And if the race isn't exciting, well, then guess what? We're tested at Indy in like 2 weeks, and we got the Long Beach Grand Prix coming up, which we know is going to be good. So I think it's something that's just unique, and I will be out there paying very close attention. Also, keep an eye on qualifying. Apparently, there's overtake going to be given to drivers in qualifying. 40 seconds of overtake, which I have never had in my career. I've never seen that before in IndyCar Series, NTT Indycar Series Racing. So that'll be very curious to see what happens. I think we always get sheets from the engine manufacturers on like, hey, if you use a certain amount of overtake out of each out of a certain amount of corners, that will produce the best lap time. So, you obviously want to get on that juice button as much as possible. You want to feel that boost, but it also changes the braking points a little bit. It changes a few things. So who's going to master the ability to use that extra juice and kind of save it for the right moments? I'll be very curious to see about that. So a lot of things to look
I want
for.
him to wheeze the juice.
Yeah.
Don't be
too aggressive with the juice, Chase.
Yeah, I don't know. No, we stopped that years ago. But we will be hoping to see some good juice wheezing out there in these cars. And another thing that I really wanted to bring to the table too, like you mentioned a lot of folks, mainly the people that were salty. If you're a new listener to this program and you don't really know much about Thermal Club or what happened, they'll just kind of tell you, like, they were looking at maybe some of the ticket prices. Now, when you go and look at the Thermal Club itself, you may see why these prices are the way they are. It's a very upscale, high class facility. And if I was going to be out there this weekend, the first thing I would do, like, I know that you're going to be there covering the racing, the cars. I would want to do like a thorough investigation, kind of like like an event inspector. I would walk around with a clipboard. I would make sure that, I had a nice legal pad. I want to go review, the common rooms. I want to review the condos. I want to review the toilets.
It is absurd. It is
uncommon rooms.
Honestly, it is cool. Like, there are millions of dollars worth of cars on the thermal property. Cars that I have never seen before until we tested there last year. Like the Aston Martin Valkyrie, like cars that are just like, just absurd, and they're just
cars that don't exist. Maybe
cars that don't exist. They're just kind of canoodling around the inner lots. Canoodling around.
There's Jay Leno come by anytime during the week.
You can just do whatever you want. They got armed guards at the gate too, so nope, they're not going to have at any strangers appearing in the paddock.
Okay. Well, see, we know that much, but yeah, that's what I would have liked to have done out there. I'm ready to watch it either way it goes. I'm going to probably be watching. I got me one of those little devices because my smart TV that I have that has apps, it doesn't have the Peacock app on it, so I had to go buy another device so I could watch Peacock, and I did that because that's my commitment to IndyCar in 2024 and beyond. So we've bought another device for a smart television to watch IndyCar. That's how we're rolling these days.
We love it. That's good stuff, man. I think again, NBC this weekend. Bobby, that's correct, right? It's NBC. Yeah, I think I saw all the information about it. Let me make sure, just so we give everyone the right information, because if you're listening to this show and you don't know, well, it's 12:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC and Peacock. It's going to be great. What is also kind of hilarious is that that's 9:30 a.m. for us on the West Coast. So it's going to be a hilariously early morning, early event for the IndyCar Series, the NTT Indycar Series. But
bagels in the cars.
I'd like to give a prediction.
All right.
I think McLaren wins this one. I think Alexander Rossi, we just saw, again, we haven't talked about this yet, but a few cars, 15 cars tested at Barber. And again, Barber, permanent road course, very smooth surface. Thermal, permanent road course, very smooth surface. Now, again, there's a lot of dust in Palm Springs, California, a lot of wind. But for me, I see McLaren as the early favorite for me. I think Pato, Rossi, and even Callum. Callum was super fast there in the test with Juncos last year. So I'm thinking a McLaren showdown, potentially McLaren podium sweep. But that's just my early prediction.
All right, I'm going to back you up on that too, because I was leaning in the direction of the orange. I'm not going to lie. I might feel a little bit of Pato. So either way it goes, they're all on the podium. But yeah, I agree with you. I feel like, if they want to go ahead and set a tone, what's the best way to do it? At the $1 million race, you got to do it, So I think that I like Pato this weekend. Rossi would be huge for him to set a tone this early in the season. Yeah.
Rossi, if Rossi wins, that would be a very, very helpful, even though it doesn't count towards the championship, great for his campaign and also his lifestyle. He's got a pool, you got to pay the pool bills, do stuff like that. But
sometimes it'd be
one
like
thing
that
as well, I think you can almost guarantee a first lap, first corner accident. I think first lap there is going to be a crash. I think because we almost had one in St. Pete, and because the stints are quite short, there's not a strategic element. You're going to have dudes just chucking cars at other people. So again,
there's definitely going to be a crash. I will say that's
going to happen. Yeah, I think that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's my early prediction.
I mean, it's an all-star race. It's $1 million challenge, right? Like, I mean, when you got money on the line, and even if after our discussion we've talked about, it still seems like there will definitely be a good chunk on the table for a driver to take.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to be gunning for it, and they know it's not a points race. They can have fun, and so what we're really going to see, what I always love about all-star races, is you get to see what really motivates a guy, and then you also get to see the people to come out that are like wanting to set the tone for a first event, right? Like,
or who's got
etch
bills
their
to
name
pay.
in
You know,
history.
Who's got a terrible debt at home? Like who's been tossing a bunch of money at a housing project that he hasn't, that maybe the real estate business hasn't worked out, and someone's got a Florida property that they haven't been able to sell yet, and they're like, Daddy's got to eat, Daddy's got to get this money.
Speaking of Florida properties, I mean, you got to watch out for people like understanding that they just got to get in a car and go. You got to watch out for like that big guy tried to hop the fence. He might try to get in that car, dude, and take off. He's ready for that paper, dude. So I mean, you never know.
Interesting one. A lot to pay attention to. Who's got debts to pay? Who's got debts to pay?
I did see Kyle Kurtwood's lap around. They had a post that they did online. Kyle Kurtwood did a lap around Thermal. And watching it at first, like I finally realized, like, oh, he's coming out of the pit, because I'm like, wow, homeboy going so slow. And then as soon as he just gets on it, dude, it's just like, I don't know, it brought me back to to my one event where Jamie McMurray passed me and basically ran me off of a go-kart track at GoPro.
That'll happen in
North Carolina. Jamie Mack, if you're listening to this, I don't appreciate
First of
what
all,
you
I'm
did.
impressed. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't appreciate it, and I'm ready for round 2.
There you go.
I'll just say that.
Well, I think on that note, we can definitely get to our interview with a driver who will be participating in that event this weekend. A lot of testing this week too. You had a full test day on Monday at Barber. You're going to have a day of Friday practice at Thermal. That's way more practice than we normally get for an IndyCar race. So very curious to see how teams use that. How are you going to use your tires? How are you going to efficiently get through those days? But we have a great conversation with a young, talented driver who has got his toes dipped in the Formula One world. Formula One driver. He has raced in Formula One motor racing events, and also now a full-time IndyCar driver with the Rahal Letterman Lanigan race team. Pietro Fittipaldi coming right up. Great conversation. I hope you guys enjoy it. All right, this week we have yet another IndyCar pilot. Let's consider him also a Formula One driver, a sports car driver, last-minute Rolex 24 fill-in driver, a Brazilian man from a racing family that everyone knows. And if you don't, well, I mean, reconsider your fanhood of racing. Pietro Fittipaldi, driver of the number 30 multi-sponsored wagon for Rahal Letterman Lanigan. Pietro, the hard charger award, as they say, the man who started the furthest back and ended up the furthest forward award winner from the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. How you feeling, my man?
Feeling great, man. Thank you for inviting me yet another time on the podcast. Always a pleasure to speak to you guys. And excited for Thermal. Already looking forward to the next race. $1 million challenge, bro. There's a lot of money on the line.
A lot of money,
like
bro.
That money.
I've never been offered a chance to win $1 million other than the Indy 500 every year. But we will get to Thermal, but I want to get into St. Pete, right? First race weekend of your season. Finally, you get an IndyCar season, right? You're in the game now. You've dabbled a little bit, right? You've had a little bit of IndyCar experience, but not at St. Pete. Your squad, the team in general, I would say it was probably a struggle for you guys. All three cars definitely seemed to be a bit of a challenge. But I think for you, you wanted to get in all the laps, figure out what we're going to expect this season. Were you guys expecting a little bit more out of the street course package? What did you think of it overall?
Honestly, I wasn't even thinking like, what package we're going to have. I was more just like, we got such little preparation before the first race. You do like a day at Homestead with 3 sets of tires. So like you don't really, it was more like a shakedown. Then Sebring again, very limited amount of laps, and then straight into St. Pete. And, our 30 crew, there's a lot of new engineers, new mechanics. So it's a lot of new people working together, and we barely had any time to like start gelling. And then going into St. Pete, a track I've never been on. I have very little street racing experience in general. And the last time I drove or I raced an IndyCar on a road course was like 6 years ago. So I was like, man, I know this weekend's going to be tough. Like, it's going to be tough, but let's just take it step by step. So my goal was just like, honestly, not that I didn't care what package it. I was like, let's just focus on completing all the laps and going into street circuits. Like in the practices, it's so hard to actually get any clean laps to evolve because you either get stuck in traffic or there's red flags. And then you go straight into qualifying. So I was like, I know that our evolution is going to, like, the majority of it's going to be in the race because that's the only time you actually get like consecutive running. Then you put on different tires and you go again. And I was fine with that. So I stayed very calm throughout the weekend. I wasn't really look too much into the results, just looking at the steps I need to take and the confidence level with the car. Because if you compare like street circuits in the US compared to street circuit racing like anywhere else,
they're not street circuits over there. They're
right? Not street circuits. Like I was speaking to my brother who was racing at a street circuit in the same weekend in Saudi Arabia. And I'm like, dude, St. Pete, it's so bumpy. It's crazy. And he's like, man, we're smooth sailing here. This is flat as hell. So it's very different. So to find that confidence level and the comfort, it takes a little bit. It takes some laps just through the amount of bumps that there is, especially under braking and stuff. So that's what I said. I said, let's keep it clean, keep it very simple with strategy, with setup and stuff, and let's just run as many laps as possible and evolve throughout the race. Obviously, keep pushing myself. And we did that, and then the pace was good in the race, from middle to the end, and we kept it clean, and it was we hit our targets for the first race weekend. But yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, finishing 15th, honestly, in this modern era of IndyCar racing, when you've got 27 full-time cars, that is you have to be happy with that day. If it's not the greatest weekend right now, when you look back at the season and you're like, hey, 15th, those are points that we need come the end of the year, right? Like that's, again, we want to win. We want to be in the top 5, top 10 and stuff like that. But nowadays in the IndyCar Series, the NTT Indycar Series, with how difficult it is, with how close it is, you have to be like, all right, for the first race out, we got to be proud of that. That's something to build on. What do you think was the most difficult part of the track? As like someone who's new to the track, like I've been racing at St. Pete now since I was like 18. So like I'm very used to it, but it's a very challenging track. And physically, how did you feel after the race? Because physically, I heard a lot of drivers, that's a tough one. That's a tough race to start out at. It's warm. I mean, I know several races over the last few years, I've had a cooler of water dumped over me in the middle of the race because it's so hot. What did you think of it?
How do you even have time to do like that?
Well, we don't take the tear off. We don't use the tear off. We don't pull the tear off. So the guy that pulls the tear off instead just dumps water on me. It actually works kind of nice.
No, I'm for sure it does. Like I do the same thing, but before I get in the car, and I learned it from endurance racing. If you're able to cool your body temp down,
it's huge.
Before you get in it, dude, it's a massive difference. And I'm a person like I sweat a lot, so I need to be careful with dehydration. So I worked a lot, like in endurance racing, on how to keep myself cool and like make sure I'm not getting cramps and stuff in the race. So that might be a good tool.
Literally, just ice bucket, boom, dumped on you, and honestly,
I feel like
it felt fantastic.
Messed up some of the electronics and stuff in the car. There's no risk.
No, I mean it probably is, but I did the same thing with Meyer Shank last year at Mid Ohio. Last pit stop, I said, "Hey, no tear off, just pour some water on me. I'm gonna unzip the suit a little bit," and I felt fantastic for the last stint.
Bro, it makes a big difference, man, because it cools your body temp down. Your body's like overheating. But going back on your question, the toughest thing is St. Pete. I'll say first is just getting in rhythm, like consecutive laps. It's so like sometimes so scrappy in a way, the session, so it's hard to really get in a rhythm. I'll say gaining the confidence, like in the heavy braking zones, to brake super late, and make sure that you're either not going to lock the rear or the front as you're turning in. Because if you do that, you either need to go straight or you're like, no, I think I'm going to stick with it. And then there's a good chance you'll hit the wall. And the problem with going straight is like, if you cause red flags, the rule is if you cause a red flag in the session in practice, you're not allowed to rejoin.
Yes.
So if you go straight, you have to make sure that you have enough space to like turn it around and go.
You got to commit to the burnout too. A lot of people don't commit to the burnout.
And make sure the car doesn't stall.
Yep.
Because if the car stalls, there's a red flag and you're done. So it's kind of like, I was going into the practice sessions, I was like, all right, I need a risk, right? To like make sure I feel the car and stuff. But I was like, there's a certain point that if I go too much and I beginning of the session and I cause a red flag or whatever, like I'm done. Then it was like all that work goes to waste. So it was just about like, that's why I was like, listen, let's just gain laps and get consistent. We might not have the preparation doing it this way for qualifying, but I was like, it's all right. If I start in the back, I'm going to have the laps in the race to build up to it. It's going to be traffic. And then we're going to get clean air and I'm going to start pushing harder. And that's exactly what we did. And we made those gains in the race. So that was the approach I wanted to take. And we did it. And then obviously going in with more experience in other tracks and stuff, the approach is going to be different. But being the first race, everybody knew and in the car and stuff and new, situation for me, I was like, let's just do a conservative approach for this one.
And physically, after the race, what do you think of the car?
Dude, I'm telling you, after warm up,
it's hard.
I was worried, bro. I really was. I was very worried.
And it's not bad to admit it, too. Like, these cars are the hardest cars to drive, I think, in the world.
These cars are the hardest cars. And after warm-up, I did like, it was like a 12-lap consecutive push stint. And I was like, holy f***. Yeah. I was like, this race is getting tough, dude. 100 laps.
Yeah.
And I was looking at some of the other drivers, and I had a Colin Braun there with me, and I'd raced with him in endurance. And he's like, damn, dude, how are you feeling for the race? And I was just honest with them. I said, I don't know, dude. Yeah. We're going to see when we go out. And he was the same. And
he has not driven a car like that probably in a very long time. When it comes to no power steering, nothing like that, it's crazy.
Yeah, and Tom Blomqvist as well. I was speaking to him. I was racing with him a lot. Like, we were always competing each other closely in WEC last year. And I was like, how do you feel? And I was like, bro, just be honest. Like, have to try. Some guys try to.
No lies.
Like some guys try to hide it.
A bunch.
He wasn't. He was very honest. Like, it's going to be fun. I don't know how we're going to do it. But honestly, at the race, it ended up being easier than I expected. Because I think you get in a rhythm. And
a lot of fuel saving, too.
That was part of it, too. And then when you're stuck in traffic as well, like sometimes in the beginning of the race, I would say more like on the second stint, I had better pace than the cars ahead, but there's no way to overtake. So you're not like pushing like this every lap, and then you're just fuel saving. So you're kind of just managing. The tough one in like the warm up was because you're pushing as hard as you can every lap, so you wear yourself out. But if you're behind the other cars and there's not much to do until there's clean air, then it becomes a lot easier. So I was okay at the end. It was a good experience.
I still think drivers acquire some sort of weird superhuman strength when it comes to race time, because again, after the warm up, you're always like, how in the world are we going to do this?
I know.
And then and once you're in the race, you're like, I know I'm here for 2 hours and like, we got to let this thing eat the whole time.
I think it's because you know that so you almost like pace yourself in a way. I don't know what it is, but I was after warm up, it's exactly what you said. I was like, I don't know how we're going to do 100 laps here, but it just you end up doing it somehow.
Just wait till you get to Nashville. Chase, go ahead, jump in here.
Yeah, no, you're talking about Nashville, bringing that up. You've done a lot of racing, man. You've been all over. I was looking over, just the stat sheet alone. You've kind of had experience and feed in pretty much everything. When it comes to IndyCar now, you're coming back into this thing. I want to talk about ovals. Are there any ovals specifically this season that you kind of have on your radar that you're mapping out? Because I know you got to have a game plan and a strategy ready to roll. What's like one big oval, other than the Indy 500, obviously, that you would want to roll with and that you would kind of want to take down this year that's on the schedule?
I would say other than the Indy 500, I do like short oval racing quite a lot, so I look forward to going back to Gateway. Heard a lot of exciting things about Iowa as well, so looking forward to tackling that. I don't know Milwaukee, or I don't know Iowa either, but there's a lot of tracks I don't know. But those tracks like Milwaukee and the Nashville Super Speedway, a lot of people don't have experience with those tracks. But I love oval racing. I've always liked it. When I went from karting to cars, I first started racing late models, and I won a NASCAR late model track championship at Hickory Motor Speedway. That was like a 1/4 mile track. So I've always enjoyed it a lot. And I think, the first oval we're doing is the 500. So you start off with the most important one.
Yeah.
But we have a 500 Indianapolis test middle of April. So that'll be the first time I'll get in the car on the oval this year.
Nice, man. I'm a big Gateway guy, so I like to go out to Gateway. Fun times,
Gateway
good
is awesome.
Yes, it is. So
and look, I did try to get your boys going the right way for next year too. So hopefully we can use some of that information from last year.
So let me ask you something then, Connor. When you jumped in to do the ovals, what did you feel was obviously looking at the stats, the ovals are a track that they struggled at. So when you jumped in, did you feel anything different, or what do you think?
Well, I mean, I think what I learned is every team has a different philosophy for sure. I think we were able to get a good amount out of it, but I think there is a bit of pace that team, but they know that. Like, they know that they needed some stuff to be a little bit better. I think I assume that there will be a different philosophy, we'll say. Like, let's say for Indy and a few different places, but for me, I think you can attack on those short ovals. Like, I think you have to be willing to drive the car very free. Like, when I talked to Lundgaard right after St. Louis, he's like, dude, you were so loose like the whole time, because Lundgaard followed me for the entire last stint. And I was like, honestly, man, I didn't feel that way. I think it was just like me over the years of my IndyCar experience. The freer you can drive the car, the faster it goes, essentially, without
almost
exploding
drift,
and dying.
Kind of drifting.
But that was what I think is I've gained confidence over the years to just be able to show up to St. Louis and just turn with the power on, essentially, and just ride it out. That's
because the weird thing is, like, I remember when I was racing with Dale there in 2018, we had a very fast car, and I remember in practice we were P3. And then qualifying got rained out, so we had to start in the back, but we finished 11th. So we made a lot of ground in the race, and the car was really good. But that car, it was all about, it gave you the confidence to drive in hard. Exactly. But I feel like it had the rear stability. So it's almost like there's a fine line. It's just different philosophies, I guess.
Think what I felt in the Rahal car was that line of, let's say, stability needed to be expanded a little bit, right? So like when you turn and you got to the limit of the sidewall, it needed to be like, all right, let's be able to lean a little bit more on this before it starts to kind of have that snap. You know what I mean? So again, we just got into deep racing tech talk right there, but you guys will be just fine. You got great engineers over there, I love working with the 30 car, and great pit crew too. You guys got great pit stops.
That matters.
For
that
sure.
Counts.
That's true.
I would say the closest thing that I've had to that experience was when I was at COTA. I kind of consider myself a professional, like junior go-kart rider, like casually.
There you go.
So until I got behind the wheel of like a high-powered go-kart and I'm going into a wall and they say, no, just stay on the gas and turn. And I was just like, I don't understand how this is about to work. And I thought it was going to be the end for me at COTA, but we pressed on, we survived, and I was able to get around. It just fascinated me.
The biggest advice I have for rental people that go on rental carts is most of the time you do not need to use the brakes.
There you go.
So that's
honestly,
a tip.
You almost don't need to,
brakes
because the car's not that fast, and you keep the momentum up. So if you try to do the lap without using the brakes, if it's a hairpin, you need to use the brakes. But any other corner, most of the time, do not need to use the brakes. It's there. It doesn't mean you have to use it. You know?
Exactly. If there's a puddle, don't hit it. That's a big lesson that I learned too. It had just rained. So I learned a lot that day. But yeah, that's as close as my experience goes with that.
So Pietro, let's look forward a little bit to Thermal. Obviously, probably another new place for you, right? $1 million challenge. Very exciting. Less pressure because it's, I would say less physically difficult because it seems like the races are going to be, there's some heat races, a little bit of a shorter distances. Are you excited about it? I mean, like everyone gets money to start the race, so that's good. At least there's something that's exciting there. I'll be out there as well, checking it out. But excited about it. You think there's, I asked Joseph this kind of same question last week, just kind of give people something to look forward to for this thermal race because it's going to be, on television. People are going to be consuming it.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I've never been there, but dude, it's the dash for cash, bro.
Hell yeah, brother.
Short little qualifying sessions, heat races, and the short race. Like, I don't even think there's no pit stops or anything. There's like a break in the middle, I think, of the feature race where you'll be able to refuel or something like that or change tires. I haven't checked exactly, but they're short little dashes. So I've never been there. It's going to be cool to experience a different track, an opportunity for us to improve as well. Like, myself, the Dirty Crew, and gel more together. It's a non-points race, but there's a lot of money on the line.
Yeah.
So, and from what I've seen in onboards, it looks very difficult to overtake.
Yes,
the races are short. You're not going to have a lot of tire dead. So, like,
I don't know how anyone's going to
pass.
After driving there last year, that's the one thing. Now, again, I'm excited for it because there's money on the line, but I don't know what the overtaking situation is going to be like, and we're going to be honest.
The only thing I see is, like, that's going to make it super exciting on the starts.
Yes.
Where people are going to be like, this is my chance. $1 million in the next row. Like, we got to go for it. Like, but I don't know if I'm mistaken or not, but that rule, I think there's a break in the middle.
I heard something like that. Yes.
There's like a break and then a restart. So it's going to give opportunity to have another restart and then go for it at the end, if I'm not wrong. So, let's see. I haven't driven there, but could be exciting.
I'm pumped. I'm pumped to see how it works out. I want to ask a little bit about you and your brother, because you guys both, I think, have created a media empire that is very strong and has to be a nice little addition to the portfolio. You guys are some of the smartest young drivers, I think, out there right now. Your YouTube stuff, you've got essentially a Kick sponsorship deal, Kick's on Enzo's car. Kick is a major streaming platform right now. You guys have like sports gambling deals. Like there's so much there that is, I think, extremely awesome, but it's all part of the program, right? You wouldn't be here right now as an IndyCar driver if you didn't have that business savviness, if you didn't have the partners that you have. Tell us, like, what do you think the next step is for you and your brother there? Like, and also, is he going to Formula One? Like, is he ready for Formula One, do you think?
Yeah, so, it all comes from, first, our love for the sport. Our dream is to be a racing driver in whatever series that is. We want to be a professional racing driver. We want to be professional racing drivers. And I had the opportunity to come into IndyCar in 2018, but it was always like part-time deals, like very last minute, and a lot of it was through Dale giving me opportunities, which sometimes wasn't even for funding or anything. It was like, listen, I'll give you the opportunity to get in the car. But I always had that dream and that goal to race in IndyCar full-time. But, a lot of the time when you go in to do a first full-time season or something like that, it depends a lot on partners. And for my brother to race, every driver in Formula 2 needs to bring funding. Oh, yeah. And we were always extremely short on funding. People don't believe that, coming from the family I come from. But we were always like extremely short on funding. It was always very difficult. So it came out of a necessity, and it came through the pandemic. We're like, let's start streaming our races and try to build a brand. And it started growing. We were the first virtual F1 world champions for the Haas F1 team. And we, gained a lot of popularity on our streaming. And I was like, the races in real life, they're going to start again. So let's bring these fans with us, like, to the tracks. So we started documenting all of our race weekends. It was started with us filming with our iPhones, all the race weekends and our behind the scenes, and posting it on YouTube, posting a lot of content on TikTok. And I was like, dude, people, they want to see this stuff because not a lot of drivers show it. So we got to keep pushing it. And I know, like, some people are like, maybe it's a bit too much or whatever, but I don't think so. Definitely
not.
It's part of the thing, dude. Like, people want to see these things.
Absolutely.
And, you know, to bring the fans closer to the sport, I think first is extremely important to use the channels to bring new fans and younger audience as well. That's the way you have to do it, you know, either through Kick, through YouTube, through TikTok, through Instagram. And we were able to create this Fittipaldi Brothers brand. And honestly, we love doing it. So every race weekend, we always have a vlog out. We're doing it on English as well now. So we're trying to grow the English audience on YouTube. So we put a vlog out already for St. Pete. It always comes out like the maximum, like 24 hours after the race. So we have a race on Sunday. It's out either Sunday night or Monday.
And I assume
so
you guys have like editors
is
now too. You guys got like people that help out.
Bro, the team is so small.
That's all right.
No idea. People think it's like this massive thing. Initially, it was just me and my brother doing it all, but it was so time consuming.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's me, my brother, and 2 other guys that do it. And that's the way it goes. And they hustle hard as well. We want to throw fast content out. So after the race weekend, vlog has to be up either Sunday night or Monday morning. So that's the way we do it. And for sure, it's super important. I mean, to grow the brand and to be able to have a platform to provide sponsors the opportunity to engage with the fans and activate and stuff. It's great. And like this weekend, we had the vlog of Enzo winning his race in Jeddah, which he did an amazing job. We did the one for St. Pete. So yeah, it's
grabbing the wheel in more ways than one. I like that.
Exactly.
Look, I got a lot of respect for that, man. Like that, it's huge, and people don't realize how hard that can be. Like when you're producing and editing and doing all that stuff on your own. So definitely have a lot of respect for that in the market. I love everything you're saying too about it, because it really is like the new television. It's the new TV. It's the new media outlets. It's like that's where everybody is. Their phone's always accessible. It's always in a pocket. It's always, you know, right there by you, wherever you are. That's where they're watching. And if we're going to grow the audience, we're going to keep getting more and more people to come in. That's where it's got to be done, and you just got to take it and grab the bull by the horns and get it.
Yeah, I know it's sometimes cheesy at times, like the drivers producing this content. Yeah. But dude, I don't care, and I'm sure it rubs some people off the wrong way. Like we're always putting out a lot of content.
That's not your problem.
And stuff,
it definitely rubs Joseph Newgarden the wrong way, because he doesn't want to follow anyone. He doesn't want to see any of what you're doing.
All business Joe, dude.
He doesn't want to see any of what you're doing.
Because I've had those talks with my brother. Yeah. I was like, bro, don't you think we're putting out too much content and some people might get annoyed? And I was like, Enzo, I don't give a shit, dude. Like this stuff, like, dude, this is awesome. Like we got to show what we're doing. Why not show what we're doing? Our preparation, everything.
All these platforms
we're so focused on performing.
All the platforms.
It's not affecting our performance.
All these platforms pay too. You know what I mean? There's money.
It's not affecting our performance. We're focused on racing, and on the side we do this. You know, other people do other stuff, and we enjoy it at the same time. We're enjoying it. So that's why we do it.
Life,
will we see Enzo Fittipaldi in Formula One? Do you think?
I hope so. I know he's extremely fast, and he has to keep doing what he's doing.
Winning is winning, right? Winning is
winning, man. I mean, opportunities come when you get results like that and you win in that sort of fashion. He did like a double overtake for the win. And, you know, he was extremely fast over the race weekend. The first race in Bahrain, they were super fast as well, but they were hit by a lot of troubles. So the way he bounced back just shows a lot. And now he needs to keep going. And he is with an underdog team. It's a very new team. I was in 2022, so they're a very strong team together. So it's got to keep going.
Absolutely, that would be pretty impressive to see 2 Fittipaldis who have raced in Formula One in this essentially the same like 5 or 6 year period. That would be pretty wild. I'm excited for him. He's a great young fella. So I've enjoyed you being a part of this program. I think this year is a big one for you. Obviously, you guys have had so many partners come on board this team as well. You know, Oakberry, who we see in Formula One as well on the Haas Formula One team cars. I love the integration, right, that we've got with you. We've got a little bit with Haas F1. I think that's great for our sport, for the whole motor racing scene in general. You guys have 5 Hour Energy involved, the consumer brand that's like, hey, we can go out and support everyone at 5 Hour Energy. We can go get energized right now at the store. You know what I mean? I think that's cool. Do you think the business of RLL is looking good right now? Everyone's kind of feeling excited about the potential you guys have for the rest of the year?
Yeah, so I'm super excited. Everyone is extremely motivated here at RLL. Even after a tough weekend at St. Pete, everyone wanted better results, and they didn't come. I'm here at the shop today, and the guys are working, nonstop to improve. And I know that we're going to have great cars this year, and everyone is looking forward to thermal already, you know, and is very proud to be part of a team like RLL.
Absolutely. Well, I am also trying to do things on the YouTube. This full video episode is on my YouTube channel. I've just now eclipsed 1,500 subscribers. No big deal. I know you guys have over 100,000, which is amazing. So I'm going to be a subscriber of yours. And that's YouTube is big business, baby. Big business, right?
It's awesome, dude. And what you're doing as well, it's extremely important for the sport. And I love IndyCar, and I think that's one area that we need to keep pushing is on the digital side, the digital media, because the racing IndyCar, for me, it's the best racing that there is in the world.
100%.
There isn't
Absolutely.
racing like IndyCar. People say, St. Pete was a bit boring, but the other races won't be. Sometimes there are some races where are not that exciting. But the way the racing is, the way you have to hustle the car and qualify, and the tracks we race at, there's no other motorsport in the world right now that is as close to as exciting as IndyCar. So that's why I love being part of it, and we got to keep going.
Heck yeah.
I agree. So this episode, we're recording this before the week of thermal, but you guys have a barber test. This show will come out after the barber test. Is that the last test other than the Indy 500 test that you guys have, or is there going to be any more testing other than at barber this week?
There is. After thermal, there's our first hybrid test that we're going to do at the Indy Road Course. It's the week after thermal, and it's all the teams that haven't done the hybrid testing yet.
Got it. Okay, cool. I'm going to go out there and watch it probably. I'll go out there and check it out.
It's March 28, 29.
Right. I did have one more question for you, man. So
there you go.
So Pietro, I kind of went and stalked the Instagram a little bit. I went back. I was trying to figure out what, the hobbies are. I found out a lot, but there was one post that really caught my attention. 2019.
Jeez, that's far back.
Yeah,
bro.
Dude.
He's doing deep dives.
Deep dives. I'm a big deep dive, big Google brain, whatever you want to call it. But Ronnie Gomez, professional skateboarder. I was a big skateboarding guy. That was the wheels that I rode on. So whenever I saw that post, he's actually stitching to the back of a go-kart with you. Do you think we can recreate that now with the actual the Delara? Can we get him to stitch on the Delara at any point in time?
That would be super cool, man. I remember we went to Brazil in this classic karting track called Granja Viana, and we were doing this promotional thing, and he was there. He was doing a bunch of tricks with the skateboard, like jumping on top of my cart and everything like that. He was a great guy, and I got to bring him to an IndyCar race now.
Yes. That has to happen. I mean, that's the content right there.
I used to skateboard a lot. But I was terrible.
Are we all skater bros now? Are we the skater boys?
We had a 3-stair right next to the pool at my dad's house. We had to ollie the 3-stair. We had to get off there and try to be
elite athletes. I was so bad, dude. I was so bad. I think my favorite part was going to the skating shops and looking at the different cool boards and getting that. That was the cool part for me.
Yeah.
It's bro, look at my board, dude.
Right. Had to get that birdhouse, had to get that element.
No, I had an Enjoy. I got an Enjoy board. You guys remember?
Spitfire wheels, bro. Were so cool.
Dude, yeah.
Their logos
A-Bag 9s, dude. Black Panther, A-Bag 9s. All the way, dude.
I had a ghost skateboard, blind skateboard as well.
Dude, I was blind right now. I think we're all three, whenever we get out to the 500, we're all three going to get together. We're just going to have to shred it. We're going to have to shred in the infield at IMS. That's a goal.
For sure.
I'm in. Well, Pietro, thank you so much, man. Appreciate you being here. Remember, watch those oval restarts this year. I know we had a tough time at Texas a few years ago. Watch those oval restarts.
I know.
Be all right,
let me tell you the story quickly. So the first time at Texas, the first race, we were having a good race, but I kept getting jumped on the restarts. Every single time I was getting jumped. I think last restart, we were 12th, and I lost 3 places, finished 15th. So Dale overnight was all right, we got to jump you got to jump the restarts. You got to go. Bro, they were jacking me up the whole night. like just jacking me up. And I'm like, all right, bro.
Let's break the rules. Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's going to be good now. The first time I go do it, the field checks up in front of me and fucking disaster.
Big explosion. That's all right.
But we learned. At
Indy, you'll be just fine. There's plenty of idiots jumping the restart at Indy, so we'll all be in the same boat. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see you on track for the test in April. Will be good to be going up against the 5-Hour Energy Wagon or whatever sponsor you've got on that thing. Appreciate you being here, man. We're going to follow you. We're going to subscribe to all your channels. We're going to be following Enzo as he pursues Formula One. And you know what? You got to get Enzo on our show sometime too. We're going to have Enzo on this show. We'd like to talk to him too.
Anytime. And one day, bro, like the you never know. I want him to come to IndyCar as well, you know. So I think that'd be exciting.
Get the whole field to come.
Bros Racing.
Get the whole F1 field to come, dude.
Yeah,
get them over.
Fittipaldi Bros Racing. All right, man. Thank you so much. Good luck in Thermal.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, as you can see, Pietro, when we interviewed him, it was a different background. If you watch this on YouTube, if you are watching like a wonderful visitor of the YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, ConnorDaily22, no big deal. Go like and subscribe and check it out over there. But we interviewed him last week, so we got an early interview in with Pietro right after the St. Petersburg Grand Prix. Great to chat with him. I like Pietro a lot. I think he's very smart. I hope you guys enjoyed I liked when he asked me about what did I think of the Rahal car at St. Louis. You know what I mean? We basically just got into a raw discussion on what I thought about certain elements of the car, and I thought that was cool. What do you think, Chase?
No, I really enjoyed it too, and I mean the fact that he's ready to skate definitely makes me happy. Okay, he's pushing wheels and he's pushing pedals, dude. And I have a lot of respect for him with everything he's done in the social media game, as well as just carrying the torch for the Fittipaldi family. So I mean he's doing a lot. He's a great guy. Glad we got to chat with him, and can't wait to get to meet him face to face and watch him try to do a pop shove it off of a ledge.
Yep, a 360 Indy grab off the quarter pipe, maybe something like that.
Perfect trick for Indy, dude.
Just basic stuff.
Yeah.
All right, now with that, we get to a fantastic segment to close out the show: the Ricky Treadway Random Indy 500 Driver of the Week.
The greatest event of its kind that's ever been run on.
Let's meet the drivers. Who will make up the field?
This week we found a banger. We found it. I love finding just little hidden gems. We went very, very into the history books. But the winner of this race, the 1933 Indianapolis 500, you will know Louis Meyer as a name that I know. Louis Meyer. Louis Meyer won the 1933 Indy 500, but I found a name that I did not recognize. I found a name that I did not know of. The P13 finisher, decent day for this finisher. I have finished 13th the Indy 500 once. The P13 finisher in 1933 was Willard Prentice. Willard Prentice, he won $450 for this. Speaking of prize money, that's about what you get for finishing 12th at a normal IndyCar race nowadays. Yikes. I just realized that. But anyway, Willard Prentice, Willard Cable Prentice, born in 1897, was an American racing driver, as well as competed in the 1933 Indianapolis 500. Competed various races. Now, this does not have a very deep Wikipedia explanation.
That's okay.
But a win in the 10-mile race was, 1927, Prentice competed in the annual fall auto races at Oakley, Kansas. Oakley, Kansas. Interesting. A win in the 10-mile race, 10 miles. That's it. That's 2.5 laps of the Indianapolis 500, essentially. A few more than that, but kind of hilarious. Followed up by a second place in the 25-mile race, despite having a flat tire for the last 3 laps. So he was basically running Bristol last weekend, flat tire for the last 3 laps, just like Josh Berry. Pretty incredible. 1930, Prentice was leading at the Arizona State Fair. in Phoenix, Arizona, when his car went through a fence and he sustained serious injuries. That's absurd. 1933. Now, this is kind of wild. His only Indy 500. So I like finding these drivers. And again, this is completely random. I literally go to the internet and type in a year. But this was his only Indy 500. So we found Willard Prentice's only Indy 500. He finished on the lead lap in 13th place and won $450 in prize money. 1934, he entered the Indianapolis 500 again. Practiced with two different cars, but was not fast enough to qualify to be able to be in the race. So, kind of wild. Willard Prentice. We found his only Indy 500 start in 1933. We learned something today.
Yeah, that's OG stuff right there. I did have one alleged fact about Willard that I did want to just note. I just thought it was a pretty good one. Apparently, he once ran for mayor of a small town with a campaign promise to provide free shoelaces to all residents. His campaign was wildly popular among the under 10 demographic, but ultimately failed to secure enough adult votes. So,
is this from the AI machine?
Yeah. This is ChatGPT.
ChatGPT.
No, but on a real note, I do want to say this about Willard Prentice. I mean, like, I love what we do every week in here, Ricky Treadway. Serious note, right? And last week, so obviously I'm doing these race cards or whatever. I had this box right here, right? The 1992 All World Racing box. And what's really cool about it is we had one of our listeners of the show became a subscriber of that last week, and we opened this up, and we started
on your Twitch
going
channel. By the way, Chase does Twitch streams opening packs of racing cards, like trading cards, which is actually really cool.
It's amazing, right? So because he was one of our listeners here, I was like, I'm going to bust this box open, right? We found some gems. Here's and it kind of is like, this is Al Unser on a scooter.
Nice. Yeah.
There he is. He's got a scooter, so he's killing the game. But there was a lot of guys in here that they even mentioned, like, this feels like the Ricky Treadway random Indy 500 driver of the week. And that's kind of what it could be. So, like, we're just pulling these cards, a lot of names, a lot of photos here. So I'm getting into the groove of that as well, which is very fun.
I love it.
So shout out
We're learning every
to
day.
Ricky Treadway. Yes.
Well, folks, we appreciate you once again. Please feel free to share this show with a friend, share this show with an enemy, share this show with anyone you met on the street today. We appreciate you. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm going to try to figure out a giveaway when I get to 2,500 subscribers and then 5,000 subscribers. We're going to try to think of something. So if you are a subscriber, you will be qualified for these giveaways when I figure out what we're going to give away. They're going to be cool. They're going to be cool things. Not an Al Unser card, but it's going to be something.
We'll throw it in. Cool. I'll throw this into your giveaway.
Throw an Al Unser card. But
he's got a scooter.
Very excited about the future. That's a cool looking card. So yeah, please feel free. Thank you for listening. Let us know as always in the comments and leave us a rating and review. And watch this weekend Thermal, the Thermal Club. Very exciting IndyCar motor race ahead. We will again be talking with the winner of that race next week. So can't wait to be doing that. Thank you to the NTT Indycar Series. Thank you to Dirty Mo Media. And until next week, we'll see you guys later. See you on Speed Street. Hey everyone, Connor Daly here. Please leave a like on this video if you did enjoy it, and also subscribe to the channel as well. That would be very helpful. Be a friend, tell a friend. Thank you so much for the support, and we'll see you on the next episode of Speed Street.